Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Third Banner Pod. I am Kyle, your host, also known by some as the Third Banner, and I am joined tonight by Ty Elliott and the man himself, Ross, that every single person in the Louisville metro area seems to know. So we've got a good episode. We got a really good episode for you guys today. We've got our first guest. We are in the walk phase of our podcast development. We were in a crawl phase. Now we're in the walk. We got our first guest, Brad Powers. He is a Vegas handicapper and he's a college football expert. And I think you're going to be very interested in what he has to say about Louisville football. He thinks very highly of us right now with the Jeff Brohm era starting. I'll let Ross get into that a little bit, maybe a little later. I did also want to touch on some Denny Crum stuff. So, Ross, what can you tell us about Brad for anybody that's just coming in here before we get him on?
He
We'll get him
is
on in a few minutes.
he is a Vegas handicapping. He's an expert, aficionado. He anything regarding analysis, picks, bets. That's your guy. I think we have his pod information there that we could share. But yeah, the guy's legit. He's got a good projection success rating. So I think y'all are gonna really love what he has to say tonight. So glad to have him on. Really excited and really for a first guest, I'm just I'm really excited.
Yep. All right. I did want to talk and touch a little bit while we're waiting on Brad. We wanted to touch on Denny Crum, obviously the passing of Denny Crum yesterday. Very sad news. A lot of people have been talking about it all day today, and understandably so. It's Denny Crum. There is no Louisville basketball without Denny Crum, no matter how old you are, if you're a younger person, even if you're supporting Louisville basketball as it stands now. Obviously, right now, Louisville basketball, we're on the rebuild, but we aren't even in a position to be in a rebuild. We aren't the blue blood that we are today without Denny Crum. And that's just his on the court stuff. I grew up on Denny Crum very young, watched the DeJuan Wheat teams. I did not get to see the 80s teams. I was too young for that. But even his 90s teams, his late 90s teams, just so many good memories of those players. We all know Marcus Maven as the radio host, but he was one of my favorite players growing up. You had Reese Gaines before he played for Patino was a Denny Crum guy, BJ Flynn. I mean, and those are just some of the names that come to mind. And it really hooked me on Louisville basketball. And Denny Crum, just this cool hand Luke, and then him always having that program in his hand, the red jacket. I mean, the guy was his own vibe. And we were just very fortunate to have him as a basketball coach. But the amount of things he did for the community, it was just incredible. It's incredible what he was able to do. And we lost a legend yesterday, but he'll always be in our hearts as long as we're going. We'll never
Yeah,
forget Denny Crum. He's on that Mount Rushmore, and he's the face of basketball for us.
yeah, no doubt. I mean, heroes get remembered, but legends never die, man. And that swagger that Denny had on the sideline was something else. Growing up, I wasn't even a U of L fan back when he was coaching for us. I was actually a fan of a different team in Conference USA. We don't have to talk about that, but
We're not going to talk about
I remember Denny Crum. I remember Denny Crum giving it just the guy was just an offensive genius. How he could draw a play up out of a timeout. I mean, it's like, they're going to get a basket here. If you were on the other sideline from him, man, you were just, God, you just knew if it was close, man, and they had the ball, they were going to score. They were going to score. So,
Absolutely. You there, Ty? You frozen? I think Ty froze on us.
oh
All right.
no.
Well, Anyway, yeah, so that's we're still waiting on Brad to get in here, but touching on Denny, we're gonna touch on him a little bit. You back with us, Ty?
Hear me? I was talking the whole time.
You were frozen, man.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm part of the younger generation of fans, so I didn't get to watch any Denny Crum teams. I'll be honest, but I do know that just through the history and learning about Louisville basketball, we're nothing without Denny Crum. And for those that want to talk more Denny tonight, we'll come back later tonight and touch on it some more. But Denny Crum is a staple, a pillar to Louisville basketball. He helped build this thing from the bottom up. And it's a sad day for all of Louisville fans, and prayers out to his family and all the players and lives that he's touched. It was a heavy day yesterday. So
Yeah, I I shared yesterday, I tweeted out, Denny wasn't, uh, he learned to become like a fisher of men, like I said, just the amount of lives he was able to change for the better through what he was great at was just extraordinarily special. And, he will be missed. And, but that guy, I have to imagine, didn't have too many regrets going to his grave. He lived an amazing life. So.
Absolutely. And we will touch on Denny towards the end of the episode, like Ty said. I did want to introduce, we do have a special guest tonight. We'd like to introduce the host of the Hit the Books podcast, your national source for the highest quality football and basketball content regarding bets, picks, insight, and analysis, powered by the Hammer Betting Network. So without further ado, let me get him in here. And let me change our overlays here. Oh, Lord.
We got it.
There it is. All right, there he is.
Hey, what's happening,
There's
guys?
Brad.
Brad, nice to meet you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right. So, Brad, tell us a little bit, for anybody that may not be aware of what you do. What is it specifically that you do?
Oh, great question. I don't even know. We're all day to day, but I bet on college football, believe it or not. I live in Las Vegas. I mainly bet. I originate college football. Originate basically means I have my own set of power ratings. I think that they're quality enough that I'm not afraid to bet off of those. I also give out advice to people that want to partake in that. So I do sell information as well. And also, like you mentioned at the top, part of several podcasts. It consumes my entire life, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You're living a dream, man. Absolutely.
I don't know about that. Depends on the week. Ask me a week. I mean, when there's winners, it's a winning week. Yeah, it is the dream. When it's a loser, I mean, it's not much fun.
No, I do not envy the stress that comes with what you do, man. Especially because, there's so many people that are depending on your picks, and I bet that's got a weigh on you at times. But totally,
yeah,
it
does. Not for the week. There's other times that I wish I had the 9 to 5, to be honest with you.
I bet, but I respect it, man. It's awesome. All right, Brad, we did want to touch, we're big Louisville fans, obviously. And one reason Ross reached out to you was because of a tweet that you had sent out. And we had talked about a lot beforehand because we were, we obviously are kind of biased if you haven't gotten that idea. We're Louisville fans. So
just a little.
So to see somebody who does this for a living, who by all accounts, I've seen your stuff before. I think you have quite the expertise, and you do your research into things. And the tweet is, I know Clemson has been the top dog in the ACC for the last decade. I know there's a lot of excitement deserved around Florida State. I know Miami brings in a great recruiting class, but the program y'all need to keep an eye on in the next few years is Louisville. So, Brad, that was on April 29th. And what is it that triggered that tweet in more detail?
Well, I've been thinking of it for a while and just didn't come out of nowhere. Let me preface by saying, I know we live in a world with a bunch of hot takes. The difference between me is, I'm not afraid to put cold hard cash on a hot take. I don't even think this is a hot take, to be honest with you. I think if you follow college football and you're paying attention, Louisville's kind of that, quote unquote sleeping giant. I think it starts off in today's day and age, starts off with money. Are you willing to spend money? And if you are, it could be a great asset to you. And Louisville has money. Looks like they're willing to spend it. And then after, you answer that question, are you willing to spend money or not? Do you have the right guy in place? Well, I think Louisville, starting in 2023, has the perfect guy for the job. The guy that understands that place more than any other. Jeff Brohm, obviously being there, being assistant coach as well when Louisville had some of their best seasons in school history. He has plenty of experience in the geographical area at Western Kentucky, at Purdue. I just think makes a lot of sense. I was on campus last summer, and for those of you that are maybe watching and aren't Louisville big supporters, I'm here to tell you, Louisville Stadium. It's an NFL stadium, and I mean that in a good way. I'm not saying like it's a college team playing in an NFL stadium. They don't have the right crowd. I'm here to tell you, it is a very professional looking stadium, and if you get the right recruits there, they're going to be awfully impressed. So I just think it's a team that, a lot of maybe name brand wise isn't there nationally with the Florida States, the Miamis, the Clemsons of the world. But man, they have the money that people don't understand that how deep their pockets are. I'd argue it's top 15 in the country as far as pockets. And I think they got the right man for the job. And I know I'm going a little long-winded here, but let me preface by saying this. A lot of people question, Jeff Brohm didn't do that well at Purdue. Are you freaking kidding me? He inherited a Purdue program that was 30 games under 500 in the previous 4 years that he inherited. Won immediately. I took him to a bowl game year one. And if you're really diving in the weeds, maybe you have a couple of lackluster seasons. Well, why did he have some lackluster seasons? Well, for starters, he had an injury bug there that wiped out his quarterback position a couple of years. More than the outstanding All-American returner wide receiver couldn't stay healthy. The COVID situation, the Big Ten in 2020 was an absolute joke. It wasn't like the ACC where they had a plan and they played basically an entire season. So, you add all this together and guys, I'm not saying this because I'm on a Louisville podcast. I'm saying it because my wallet, my portfolio is at risk here. And I like Louisville quite a bit. Starting this year, I like Louisville quite a bit. I've already bet them over their season win total.
Hey, I would like to know who it was that was skeptical about Brom's record at Purdue.
Hey, Ross, we needed Brad all along, man. Me and you led this charge. Where was Brad this entire time? Oh
yes.
My God. Brad, you just made everybody happy.
You know what? Brad's absolutely right, though. It did not take me very long at all. And I can be skeptical at first until I see proof. And there's places in Louisville program right now where I haven't seen as much proof. But Jeff Brohm, it took me about 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, he gets it. He absolutely gets it. He hauled absolute ass on the recruiting trail immediately. And I could tell he recruit Brad. I've told them, and I've said it on the pod before, he recruits like his job is on the line every week. And like he has to go meet with the AD every Friday afternoon to figure out if he has a job. And he just started here. There was no honeymoon phase or easing into it. Dude just hit the ground running blue collar style.
And I've already seen it. The class, he was able to keep, for the most part, that class together. I think he did an outstanding job in the transfer portal. This is in the weeds, but why not? It's a Louisville podcast. I think Stanquan Clark was one of the more impressive freshman linebackers that I saw in the entire spring games. And I saw 61 of them. I think he's a future superstar. You not only look at the 23 class, you start projecting forward the 24 class. You got the big defensive lineman out of Miami. That's when you're following the sport nationally, that's kind of the leading indicators that you're looking. Hey, this program might be different than what we've seen the last 4 or 5 years. And if you're willing to get a highly rated guy out of Miami, then something's up. So, and I'll give you another one in the weeds. Ohio State really wanted the tackle from Purdue, was willing to put a lot of money up for that tackle, and Louisville beat them out for that. So again, it shows that Louisville is ready to spend the money and not afraid to go toe-to-toe with a national powerhouse like Ohio State, because after watching that spring game, if there was a weakness, it's probably on that offensive line. And what does Louisville do? Jeff Brohm, a really good quality coach. He attacks that weakness that he had. Obviously had a prior relationship. So, I mean, I'm very optimistic about this Louisville program. And look, I know a lot. They're behind Clemson and Florida State, and deservedly so for this year in the ACC. But there's a scenario where Louisville can be in that ACC championship game year one.
I think some of us are afraid to say that, honestly, but like we're feeling it. Like
we talked about on here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would not. I'm not. I don't have the bar set there for year one, but I don't think that it's a crazy thing to say that we could end up there. We don't play Florida State this year. We don't play Clemson. You know, we don't play North Carolina in the conference. Like those teams are all projected supposedly to finish ahead of us this year, and we don't play any of them. Like as long as we don't get one of those like Brohm clunker games, which can happen sometimes, like if we can avoid those, man, I think our record's going to be outstanding. Like and I think it's going to be something that the vibe that's in this city is and just the energy is just palpable, and everybody seems to be really on board. And I think when they start winning, it's going to come full bore, because it's going to just it's going to be synergistic and feed into itself. So.
Yeah, and the schedule sets up, like you mentioned. And look, you're going to get a good idea of just how good Louisville is going to be right out of the gate. I think Georgia Tech's a good barometer of how good Louisville can be. I think Georgia Tech's a lot more competent, and they showed at the end of last year than what they were under Jeff Collins. Louisville's still going to be favored by at least a touchdown, if not a little bit more in that game. So that's a good barometer in week one. National audience for that one. The Indiana game, you can get a good barometer there. Obviously, Brohm scouted Indiana from his days at Purdue, so I think that gives him a little bit a jump start there. Obviously, I think early on, after those first few games are out of the way, you're going to really know how good this team can be. You know, NC State, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, with two of those three on the road. I mean, that'll tell you everything that you need to know about Louisville as far as this season. Look, I still think 8-4, 9-3 is a really good season. So, I mean, I'm talking, possible ACC championship game appearance. If they go 8-4 and have a really good recruiting class, that's still, I think a really good starting off point for this.
That's a huge, great foundation for sure.
Well, speaking of the ACC and some of the teams in it, I know Ty had a question. I had the same kind of question I wanted to ask. So, Ty, what was it you wanted to ask about the ACC? Brad would know if anybody.
Brad, I saw this tweet of yours. Kyle, if you want to put that up, and you just briefly touched on it, Brad. You've seen 61 spring games.
Yeah,
61. Yeah. Brad, my first question: how and why would you torture yourself with watching 61 spring games? And two, is there any other teams that stood out to you as possibly overrated or underrated, just off of what you could see spring action?
Yeah, good question. Look, it's not an enjoyable watch. A lot of them, some of them are. I mean, when you're getting in a groove, they're kind of like a fun watch. I'd rather watch that than most of what's on TV right now. But why do I do it? Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, today's day and age in college football, these teams are changing on a pretty big basis compared to what they were, even 5 years ago. So, I mean, it starts with, a lot of the freshman class is in immediately. And the expectation is a lot of the 3-4 of these freshmen could be contributors. So I want to get the first look there. Other thing, transfer portal. I mean, a lot of these kids, the major transfer portal was at the end of last season, not necessarily after spring, but I mean, the best players have transferred and they've been in the program for a couple months. It's my first opportunity to see if they're going to be a good fit and whatnot. It's also, it's kind of a cheat code. It's Cliff Notes. I mean, for what's happened for the team, a 2-hour window to what's happened during spring. A lot of times you get beat reporters and beat announcers. That have been to multiple practices. And they'll kind of give you an inside scoop. I like watching it. I mean, I kind of have a scout. I look at the games not necessarily for X's and O's. I'm looking for players who can play, who can't play, specifically at quarterback. So I'm looking at that. And then, also some spring games, I mean, the head coach is right there. And he's pretty candid. And he's sometimes mic'd up. And he'll even tell you, I mean, some coaches were even candid. Hey, we need to get a few players on the offensive line after spring. That's where we're going to hit in the portal. We're going to hit the secondary. So that kind of tells you, what their thoughts are. So all of that is why I dive deep into it. And what else am I going to do? I don't bet baseball. So, I mean, why not?
Brad, my next question is, I consider myself more of a casual sports gambler. I hate to admit it, but I did make some money off Louisville basketball this year.
Against
I did-
Louisville basketball, right?
I did too.
Yeah.
Against.
I was up about $700, man.
Brad, I was sweating bullets in the Maui tournament, man. I'm telling you, hitting the old. But anyways, I did want to ask you, when it comes to season win totals and over unders and stuff, how does Vegas or any of these sport books kind of come to that conclusion or that number? Is it kind of like based off of analytics, or is it just kind of schedules and things of that nature? How do they usually come to that number, like Louisville 7.5, perhaps?
Yeah, so contrary to popular belief, unlike, Joe Q Public, it's not sitting there in a schedule and writing, W. They might lose that game. It's not done by that. So it's kind of done with I can tell you how I do it and how, good sportsbook, odds makers do it, is you start off with a power rating. You plug that power rating in the schedule, you factor in home and away, and you just compute, a line, expected line for that game. So, whether or not you're a 7-point underdog or a 17-point favorite, you get a win probability out of that. So, I'll use Alabama as an example. People don't understand, a lot of times, Alabama, not necessarily this year. I'll use Georgia. That's a better example this year, Georgia. I mean, Georgia's going to be a significant favorite in every game. So does that mean their season win total is 12? No, then you can only bet under, obviously, on a 12. So even though their average line is going to be like a 28-point favorite over their 12 games, you still, when you put forth that win probability, this game a 90% chance, this game is a 90% chance. Well, when you multiply that out by 12, you come with like 11.5 win total. It's a mathematical formula, pretty simple, but that's how guys like myself do it, and that's how the good bookmakers do it. And then, sometimes, if you got a popular team, they might, lean a little bit way because they know the public money's going to come on a team, so they might shade it a little bit as far as the over, the under in that regard. So it's not that complicated, but it's getting that power rating accordingly that's complicated, and why I watch 61 spring games, because I do find a lot of hidden gems in there.
All right. So for anybody that's just joining the pod or anybody that's listening, we are joined by Brad Powers. He is the host of the Hit the Books podcast. So feel free to follow him on Twitter. With that being said, somebody in the chat said, you can tell Brad knows his shit. He earned a follower out of me. He should earn a follower out of all of y'all if y'all haven't followed him yet. He clearly knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
Not just because he's high on Louisville, but yeah, that does definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say, what if I came on here and said, sell Louisville this year, go under their win total? Would I get a follow then?
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
if you say take the under on Louisville basketball, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, honesty's always I appreciate it. I can't speak for anybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to like put a lien on my house, so I'm taking everything you say like straight to the bank.
No pressure.
Well, don't sell the house, sell the wife, sell the kids. It's not like that. I can tell you. I mean, I've had positions that I thought were, guaranteed and, weren't a guarantee. Let's put it that way.
There's a good question in the chat. Brad, gun to your head, who is your college football Final Four?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, you got to start with Georgia, not just because they're two-time defending champ, but they got a cakewalk schedule. And even if they drop the SEC championship game, I think statistically they're going to be, outscore their opponents. That if they lose to an Alabama in the SEC championship game, they'd still be there. Wow. I'll go to the Big Ten. I mean, Michigan gets Ohio State at home. They've beaten the Buckeyes the last couple of years, and they got a lot coming back. I really like their defensive line. The only two toss-ups I would say on their schedule is at Penn State in the Buckeye game, but I'm going to go with Michigan out of the Big Ten. And then it starts getting a little tougher then. You're going down the line. I think SC's actually legit this year. I didn't think they were legit watching their spring game. I thought, man, they need help with the line of scrimmage. So what do? After the spring, they go out and get the number one offensive lineman in the transfer portal and the number one defensive lineman post-spring in the transfer portal. So SC with Caleb Williams, I think, is the best team in the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. Will they make it? I'm not sure because the Pac-12 is pretty deep. but they would be in the mix. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I think Texas for once is pretty legit in the Big 12. We'll see in week 2. They're at Alabama, but I think Alabama's vulnerable, and I think they almost beat Alabama last year. And then ACC, obviously, I mean, it's Clemson and Florida State. I get the love for Florida State, and it's their best team in the last 5-6 years. But, man, Clemson gets those key games at home against Florida State and Notre Dame, and Clemson will be favored in all 12 games. And I like the coordinator hire of Riley, so I think Clemson's right there. So I think there's pretty much only 2 that I'm pretty sure about, Michigan and Georgia, and then we'll see what the other 2. I think I'd be shocked if Georgia doesn't three-peat, be the first team since 1934 through 36 Minnesota to three-peat. I think that's how much better they are than the rest of the country.
Yeah, man. Kirby Smart's taking that Saban crown, man, for sure. It's definitely looks like that. Let me ask you, since you brought up USC, how big of a believer are you in their passing game?
Well, I mean, I know they lost a couple of guys at wideout, but they get good plug and play. They got a couple of guys, got an Arizona transfer. They got a couple of 5-star wide receivers. I bet, let's talk win totals. I mean, I can't believe somebody put 9.5 out there on SC. If I got over 9.5, I think they win at least 10 games.
Wow.
So one of the best passing offenses in the country. Texas would be up there as well as far as passing offenses.
Brad, does Georgia losing Stetson Bennett, does that worry you at all? Is Carson Beck kind of the next up for Georgia there? I mean, does that worry you at any?
Not only is Carson Beck the next up, I think he's better than Stetson Bennett. So you want to talk about actionable, watching a spring game? I'm watching it, and I'm seeing, you think, Georgia's going to be conservative. They're not going to show much. Nah, they're throwing the ball down the field vertically. I think they want to test that arm out for Carson Beck. And I bet him 40-1 to win the Heisman. That's my favorite Heisman bet that I made. I mean, you're going to give me the starting quarterback for the best team in the country at 40-1. And I know the offense isn't like a Lincoln Riley offense as far as putting up a bunch of stats, but Stetson Bennett finished 4th in the Heisman last year. And I'm telling you, arm talent wise, Carson Beck's much better than Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck's an NFL caliber quarterback from what I saw in the spring game. So I'm not worried at all, to be honest with you. I think they could upgrade at the position.
Plus, I was going to say, plus, like Beck's not like collecting like his AARP card. So, it's like.
There you go.
So, speaking of quarterbacks, though, so we obviously at Louisville, we have a new quarterback, and I know you're familiar with him, Brad. Jack Plummer, going back to Purdue, going to California. And we kind of got tipped, a few of us in the Discord, that he was going to be our starting, or he was going to be the transfer quarterback. So we already were kind of ready for it, and I was a little bit surprised by the initial fan reaction, because I love bringing Jack Plummer on board. I thought it was a great get, going back to his Purdue days, understanding the Brohm offense and exactly what he's looking for. But am I being a little biased? Is there something? What do you think about Jack Plummer?
No, it's a good gap. I mean, it's bridging a gap. I mean, if you're going to tell me, he's definitely going to be the guy for the next 3-4 years, yeah, then I'd be worried. But no, I needed somebody to come in. And again, Brown's in a win now mode. I mean, the guy knows his offense. Are they going to win the national championship with Plummer at quarterback? No. But can they win a lot of games with him at quarterback? Yes. And that's obviously, I would think that would be my expectation if I was taking over the program. So, I thought it was, to me, it's smart. I mean, again, it was just another example of Jeff Brohm understanding where he's at and where he wants to go and having a game plan. I mean, I hate to say it. I know a lot of coaches think they have a game plans, but I don't see proof of concept from a lot of these coaches on paper. With Brohm, I don't have an issue with it. So I thought it was good. I mean, is he going to be great quarterback? No. But again, he bridges that gap, understands the offense, and he'll put up solid numbers. They can beat the Notre Dames and the NC States and the Pittsburghs of the world with Plummer at quarterback.
So my last question, you said you saw Louisville's spring game, correct?
Yep.
Who impressed you the most?
No, they were the one out of 61 I didn't watch.
So who impressed you the most on a roster right now?
Well, I think the freshman, the Clark kid, that linebacker, was all over the field. And, when I like to, not necessarily individual players, I like to look at position groups. And I guess what impressed me, I know everyone's going to want to talk about offense with Louisville, with Brohm, but I thought defense, more than held their own. In fact, I thought they won the day, in my opinion. I don't care what the scoreboard said. I just, what my eye test said. And what did I like from the defense? And it's kind of what I'm looking for in a spring game. They ran sideline to sideline. A lot of Twitch type athletes on that defense, on that front seven. Now, I think moving forward, if they want to be, a linchpin and be a playoff contending team, they're going to need some more size on the interior defensive tackle. But man, on the edges, they looked really good. And I thought they needed a little bit of help in the secondary. Guess what Brohm did after spring? Went out and got a couple more guys as far as the secondary. So, that's on the defense side. Offensive side of the ball, obviously they struggle a little bit. I think Brohm smartly manufactured some points there in the second quarter by starting the ball off 25, 30-yard line. Running back situation's okay. The kid from Wisconsin can be an all right depth guy. They'll be fine. They got their top 2 running backs who played well in the bowl game. They come back. We mentioned Plummer already. Tight end, I like that freshman. He needs to drop about 10 pounds, but who am I to say? I mean, we all need to drop a little bit, but I think he'll be fine. Wide receiver, if we're talking transfers, that wide receiver class in the transfer portal, I think looked really good. So there was a lot to like, to be honest with you. Not that I was sitting there like, oh, wow, they can compete with Georgia, but I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, there's not many teams in the ACC that have this.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, this next question comes from our Discord chat here. When Jeff was hired, there was a lot of national media people that are kind of on the fence. What was your expectations when you first heard that we were going to hire Jeff? And to this point, has it changed any with his recruiting success? Has he changed any of your opinions or what you expected?
Nah, that was a home run just from the get-go. Because I understand. I mean, I don't know why people thought the Purdue stuff wasn't that great. I mean, I guess they're, thinking when they only think of Purdue football, they're thinking of Joe Tiller or whatever. They don't realize how bad the program was pre-Tiller, post-Tiller, and how much the struggle was, and how good of a job Brohm did, and then just the familiarity that he has with that program. So I thought it was a home run. I don't think they could have hired anybody. There's nobody better for the job right now. Sure. Do you want, Kirby Smart wanted the job? Would you take a Kirby Smart? Yeah. I mean, as far as reasonable expectation, there's no one better. I mean, I don't get it from a national perspective that people question it. So I thought it was a home run from the get-go, and everything in the last 6 months has, only vindicated that.
Brad, let me ask you, what you like to mess with prop bets a little bit?
Prop bets in what particular sport?
Football.
Okay,
Football.
Prop bets like player prop bets?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously in the NFL can be profitable. Yep.
Yeah. Let me ask you, in a Brohm offense and a quarterback like Plummer, if somebody told you that he would, if the number was 3,900 yards throwing, where would you go, over or under?
Oh, wow. Good question. Wow. That's a pretty good number. I wouldn't knee-jerk reaction, maybe under, to be honest with you. I think Brohm runs it a little bit more post-Western Kentucky days than and I just, I don't know if Plummer's that guy to go and throw 4,000 yards, but we'll see. I mean, that's a pretty good number. And if you're a bookmaker, I would be like, I don't know. I'm sure I want to bet into that. I'm not afraid to make a bet, guys. I mean, I already got 100 bets already for the college football season.
Right on, man.
Well, you mentioned that he runs more. I mean, he's going to have Jawar Jordan and Maurice Turner. So
Mo Turner.
He's going to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, I think he is going to run a little bit more. Again, it's not. I think people think, if you're really diving in the weeds, they think Western Kentucky offense. I get it, but I just that wasn't his thing always at Purdue. It kind of depending on his personnel, like a smart coach would do, depending on personnel. Do I need to throw it 50 times a game, or do I need to run a little bit? So I think he's going to. I mean, to the casual college football fan, I think he's going to run a little bit more than expected this year.
Okay, so I will just tell you. A player for you to watch out for is Mo Turner, the running back.
Okay.
That kid is going to be special. He's very, very fast. He actually beat Cheetah Tyreek Hill in a race.
All right. I will notate that. And if you don't,
so I know you're all about seeing players that can play. That kid can play. We're pretty big on the running back room. Our running back coach, Chris Barclay, who's actually a Louisville native, I I think still to this day, he has the all-time career rushing record in the ACC. When he played at Wake Forest, I believe he still has that. He's pretty well
I think
known
the
around
Clemson
Louisville.
kid has it.
Does he have it now?
ETN has it.
Okay. Well, Chris Barkley's still awesome. He loves his running back room. So I think you're probably right. I think he is going to lean on the running backs a little more this year. But that being said, I think we all know that Brohm has a very creative way to get players involved, and he's big on the screen game. And I think we'll see a lot of yak yards, so to speak, with the running backs, as they're going to be able to make a lot of big plays this year. So that's kind of where I'm at with Plummer. I think he's going to be able to get some little extra padded numbers this year, because I feel like the running back position is going to really produce out of the backfield this year in the passing game. So
absolutely. And we saw a lot of screen passes in that spring game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brad, we appreciate you coming on here tonight, man. A lot of knowledge. Pump us up, pump blood through our veins. We're looking forward to football.
Brad, you had Ross beaming, man. That opening, if Ross was he's beaming.
Yeah.
I do want to say, go ahead and follow Brad Powers on Twitter to Hit the Books Podcast. If you haven't followed him already, you definitely should. And thanks again, Brad, for coming on tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Man,
man.
We could not have asked for a better first guest. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Brad, that was great. Thank you so much, brother.
Go Cards.
Go Cards.
All right.
Man, that was awesome.
All right, guys.
That was awesome.
What y'all think? What y'all think about that guess?
Yeah, who needs drugs when he's shooting you up with that kind of optimism?
Ross,
Come on, man.
Ross, you almost broke your camera the way you were smiling in that first second.
Oh man.
I knew he got it. I know he understands. I think that's where he's at. That's a realistic expectation. Like, he sees it. Like, I think he sees what a lot of us see. So
for sure.
That was phenomenal. So God, man, he gets it.
Man. That's good stuff. I'm gonna have to get a mouse for this computer though, because I was trying to scroll, get that overlay at the beginning. It was like fumbling. I was like Lamar against UK fumbling the ball, and I finally got him in here. But he did good, man. That was great. That was great stuff. And for anybody that's a little bit on the fence about football, I don't think there is anybody, or at least not anybody that I'm talking to these days. How the hell that wouldn't get you off of being on the field? Like, how the hell that wouldn't get you on the other side? I don't know, because that was good stuff. The man's clearly knowledgeable. Brad Powers, follow that man on Twitter, host of Hit the Books Podcast, been doing this for a long time. He, his entire career is based on, anybody can make a hot take and not have any skin in the game. That man's living is based on being an expert, and he thinks we're going to be a good team this year. He thinks the Brohm hire, he thinks we hit a home run. And I think the key thing I got out of it, more so than even this year, was that we're built for success in the future. And I think that's what he kind of alluded to the most. It's like, he thinks we can compete potentially for the ACC championship this year. But he's really he's thinking like, man, you guys are built for success for the long haul. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah. And I like how he brought up too, he mentioned Louisville being a team having deeper pockets than a lot of people probably on the outside realize. And that not only do we have those pockets, we're willing to spend the money. I think with the success that we expect to see from Brohm and this team this year, I think you'll have people more willing to open up their pocketbooks and give more money going forward. So it's like I said, I just feel like everything's going to be just synergistic. Like, it's just going to feed into itself. I think this is why I wanted Brohm last year. This is why I wanted him last year, because I knew he was just the best fit. He gets it. And I knew he was going to do this. I'm sorry. I know people might call bullshit on that, but I knew this. I knew that he was going to do this. I just did. I had all the faith in the world that he was going to do this. And you couldn't have proven me wrong otherwise, unless I had seen it, and he's doing it. He's backing it up. He's walking and talking it. So
The guys in the chat are pumped. I'm just telling you, if it lasts longer than 4 hours, consult your physician.
You took my joke, man. You took my joke. I was gonna say,
Oh, I took your.
who needs Viagra? Just play the first freaking
Hey.
first segment.
I must be upgrading on my jokes because you usually roll your eyes at my dad
know.
jokes, and now I'm taking
stole
your
my-
jokes.
You
So
stole my dad joke, man.
stepping up the game, man. We
That
all got to
first-
step up our game after that interview.
but it's
That
not a
first
blue.
segment.
It's not a blue pill. It's a red pill.
Yeah.
Red and black.
Yeah. That first segment, man, that was just awesome. I've never seen Ross smile like that before in my life. That was crazy.
Yeah, my friend in there, John, said Ross looks like he's high. Yeah,
We
I
are
mean,
high. We are all high right now. Did you not
Yeah.
hear what he shot us up with?
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm definitely going to be going back and listening to that again tonight for sure.
Just got more season ticket donations with that interview.
Yeah, for sure.
So you go ahead, Ross.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, hey, we have talked about football. We're pumped about it. For anybody that's just now joined, didn't see the beginning of the interview, or maybe missed the whole thing, Brad Powers is well known for sports betting, expert in college football. Attended 61 spring games this year to know what the hell he's doing, including ours. So he has a good idea of what's going on. You'll want to when we get this on Spotify, when we get this on Apple and Google Pods, you're going to want to listen to those first 40 minutes.
I'm disappointed in myself because I got caught up in the moment. But I was going to ask him, since he brought up Georgia Tech, I really wanted to pick his brain on that Georgia Tech spring game, because I did watch some of it. They look like they can score some points this year, and they probably will. I think that's going to be a little bit of a surprise, especially game one. That could be a little dangerous. But I think we can take care of business with Georgia Tech. But I would have liked to. I meant to ask him who we should be watching out for on that Georgia Tech team, because they do look like they're going to air it out more this year based on that spring game that they had.
Yeah, I'm sure like before the season you reach out, I'm sure he'll get back with you. He seems like a really nice guy as well. So all that being said, we have talked about there has been a lot of actual action since the last pod in basketball. Some of it good, some of it
Let's take all that excitement you just had in the first 40 minutes.
I'm gonna
now
start
let's
with the
go ahead
good
and
in
flip
basketball. I'm gonna start with the good, or at least I think
depressed.
it's good. We did land Trey White since the last time we've talked here. The wing out of USC. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to call him a guard. He can play guard.
Wow, he has a G next to his name.
He can play guard, but I will say this. Trey White is a positive addition. I would say he's arguably the best addition for next season that we're going to have.
Absolutely.
Now, trajectory-wise, you start talking about like Flowers and Evans and people. If they stick around by the end of the year, they may – or by the end of their career, I mean, they may end up being. But as far as right now, going into next season, I think Trey White could help us immensely. So that's the positive. But the more recent development in the last day or two is that we did not make the final two of Mackenzie and Mgbako, who we were believed at one time to be the leader. We were believed that the Nolan Smith connection would put us out ahead, and then it was just playing defense the rest of the time. That may have been the case. We don't know. But we do know that we are no longer being considered. He is going to decide on Friday between IU and Kansas. It sounds like as of this, it sounds like Kansas is the lean, but either way, it's not us. So I know fans have reacted differently about it, as they always do. I'm not – I can tell you how I feel, and then you guys can tell me. And then I want to touch upon some comments about the fan base that I'm hearing that they just kind of rub me a little bit the wrong way. But first, as far as Mgbako goes, am I disappointed we missed on Mgbako? I am. He would be the most talented player on the roster.
Yeah.
Arguably, at least. I think he would be. And he's a top 10 player. So, yeah, you want the guy. But if you ask me, how disappointed are you compared to losing out on Davion McKnight, on Keon Minifield? Doesn't touch that. I was much more disappointed because of the roster fit. Like, yeah, Mgbako would be a day one starter, and he has the talent. I'm not one of those jaded fans that says, you know what? we didn't need him anyway. Like, no, we could have definitely used him. He's a talent. Nothing changes about that just because we didn't get him. But I was much more disappointed that we did not land Davion McKnight for one, because it just seems like we could have had him if we pursued him first, made him a priority. But then Keon Minifield was just like the perfect fit. And we all raved about him on this pod. And so when I compare it to that, I'm not feeling as bad, especially if, and that's getting late in the game, but if we can take that scholarship, which is the last one, and we can fill it with a guard, an impact guard, like the Taylor kid out of Marshall, for example, do I think he's an overall better player than Mgbako? Probably not overall, but as of right now and as of what we need instant impact-wise, there's an argument that a guard that averages 20 points a game and 5 assists is exactly what we need right now, and he can make an more immediate impact. I'm not saying we're going to land him either. I haven't heard much about him other than we reached out initially, and I'm hearing that Ole Miss is going to be very tough to beat, but who knows? So that's how I kind of feel. It did bum me out, and I'm more bummed because it was another one where we thought he was in the back, and then at the end we didn't even get a visit. That part is very disappointing. How do you guys feel? But other than that, I'm not too bummed about it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was gonna say Mgbako to the Louisville visit said, "Fuck no." Fuck no.
Okay.
That's
worse than any dad joke I've ever made.
Ross, my brother in Christ.
Fuck no.
I'm gonna be honest. With the Mgbako thing. If I had to sum it up in one word, it would be expected or like typical that we didn't get a visit. It's just I don't know. I think when we first heard that Mgbako was getting out of his commitment to Duke, and we all were kind of looking around like, could it be us? And then I think the news finally started breaking there. We know what happened. It was Nolan was going around kind of spreading the rumor that we were going to be in there. And I think we all kind of said initially, like, hey, slow it down. Like, let's see how this goes. To go from the narrative being that it's going to be Louisville, it's a lock, it's a done deal. We've seen it all over the past 2.5 weeks. It's a done deal. To not even get in the visit, it's typical. It's what I've just come to expect. With
sadly,
it's what I've come to expect, and so I'm not like super hurt about it. I can't be, because this is just a long laundry list of what could have beens or just failures under there. So
and here's the thing, like this is the thing, right? Like, it's not that Louisville fans were just jumping to these conclusions. We were being led both locally through leaks and also those leaks going national, and that being the case that, Louisville is the team that possibly is they're the front runner. And we were like the front runner for this entire thing, the entire time. And to not get even a visit, I'm sorry, that feels just like the Eastern Michigan kid all over from last year. It feels just like that. What the hell is that kid's name?
Amani Bates.
It feels just like that all over. I mean,
Tyrese
it feels.
Hunter was a card until he wasn't.
Yeah, and
Mosley.
And you look at last year, like the players that we passed on, basically because they said they didn't want to play with Bates, or the staff said no, we would rather have Bates. Maybe Churchill Boss isn't good. We don't know. Kenny saw him, but you have to think that us prioritizing Mgbako around that same time that Kenny took that visit had something to play a part in that. And like, if you're giving me my druthers between Mgbako and a boss, I'm taking Mgbako, but you didn't land him. You put all your eggs in one basket and you missed again. All right. Like, I can't say this enough. All of us want this staff to succeed. But the crap that keeps coming out about, we're going to get this kid, and the leaks that keep coming out for us to not even get a visit is a horrible look. It's a bad look. It's a really bad look. You lost, and you lost badly. Somebody took your cookies and ran, and we're just stuck there, and we ain't got nothing to say about it.
Well, and I want to kind of piggyback on the perception that a lot of people have that, a lot of people echo your frustrations, Ross, but I do want to talk about, there's been multiple, and I'm not calling any one of them out. So if any of them happen to see this, which I don't know who all watches this or not, or listens, but there have been multiple media types, podcast types that have said, the fans, the fans are the problem here. And the fans are the biggest reason why people, and I've seen it on Twitter, I'm seeing it everywhere. Like, who would want to come to Louisville with fans like this? Okay, so give me about 2 or 3 minutes, because I'm about to go in on one right now, and I'm going to make this make sense.
Do it.
So this, being a fan is like being a customer. You're a customer, and you're investing in a product. You are not, like, at what point we heard it was the cloud. We heard it was the NCAA cloud, and that's why we couldn't get portal guys last offseason. Then we heard that the players on the team that were there were just holdovers and in patchwork. They were the problem. Now the fans are the problem. So at what point are the staff members that make 6 and 7 figures, at what point are they responsible for any of this? And that's the question I have for a certain faction. Now, are there fans? And what I'm about to say, like, I'm not taking up for constant negativity, all the stuff I see on Twitter, but there's this idea that there's like super fans preaching at other fans the right way to be a fan. And as somebody in the field of psychology who's done that my whole life, this is basic human behavior, man. People come from different backgrounds, different upbringings, and they're going to have different takes. So my question is, as customers who, honestly, it's not a fiscally responsible thing to be a hardcore fan. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on something you don't get a return investment other than wins and losses. You can't turn around and sell it unless you sell your tickets, which you're probably not going to make a good profit off of that unless you scout people to death. But that's my point is, we are not responsible for what goes on the court and recruiting. The only line I would draw there is somebody like making something personal and attacking a player or coach in their inbox or calling them out personally. That's few and far between. And if you go to any fan base like UK, Duke, UNC, any of those type of Indiana, any of those blue blood schools off of a 4-28 season, and you tell them, we're going to hit the portal, we're going to crash the portal hard, and we're going to land a bunch of instant impact portal guys. And you've gotten two solid players, no doubt, not taking any way away from that. But we have not struck gold in the portal. And the high school class is good, but I don't see instant impact guys right off the bat, which is what we need. So the comparison I make here, being a fan, and the way our fan base, some of our fan base and some of these people, these talking heads, are treating the fans right now. It's like Jeff Ruby's. Nice steakhouse, right? I mean, now some people can debate who the best steak. I mean, I've got my pick. It's not Jeff Ruby's, but we all know Jeff Ruby's. I think it's up there towards the top. It's top tier. It's a blue blood Louisville steakhouse. Now imagine.
Well, way to go. I was working on getting us a sponsorship with Jeff Ruby's. Thanks a lot.
Hey, I mean, we've all, I mean, I'm not saying, look, I've got Repeal up there at the top, and then I've got Jeff Ruby's right underneath. So that's just me, but we're not going to go. I mean, everybody's going to debate the steak, but it's basically, I want you to picture walking into a Jeff Ruby's. It's 5-star restaurant. You get a good ass steak. Your baked potatoes amazing. Everything's on point. You have a great night. Then all of a sudden, management changes. Steak's not cooked quite well. You ask for medium rare and you got well done. Baked potatoes not as fresh. All of a sudden that management staff turns over. And, they at least communicated with you a little bit about your frustrations. They let you voice them, but they seemed a little bit dismissive at times. Now you got a third management team in here. And my steak's like Ponderosa well done right now. I get a well done steak. My baked potatoes cold.
How did I
My
know
asparagus
Ponderosa
is
was going to come
soggy.
into this?
I mean, it's a hot soup. It's a soup sandwich. And I complain as a customer and I say, yeah, this isn't what I'm used to. This is Jeff Ruby's, man. What are we doing here right now? And instead, and I say, can I talk to the management? There is no management that's going to talk to you. No, there's nobody. I'm just sitting here with my well done steak. And if you eat a well done steak, you're on the wrong pod. I'm sorry. But no, I'm kidding, kind of. But seriously, you send me a well done steak, I'm not going to be a happy camper. But I get my well done steak, my soggy ass potato, my rotten asparagus, and my soup sandwich. And there's no management to complain to. And then the table next to me has the same exact thing. And they look at me and they go, I don't understand what you're complaining about. The problem is you, not the nasty, well done steak, not the soggy potatoes. How would you react? And no, it's not a perfect apples and apples comparison, but being a fan is being a customer. That's the point. Being a fan is being a customer. You're going to have people right now after that season and with the recruiting that aren't going to be all rainbows and unicorns. They are not to blame. You don't blame the customer. In my line of work, I work in a very difficult field of healthcare. And I've worked for plenty of companies where all people ever did was blame the families and say, well, that family member's just, too much. Like they have too high of expectations. The company I work for now is great because they take the customer's always right approach. Now, is the customer always right? Technically, no. Are there unreasonable people? Absolutely. But when you approach something where you communicate and do your best and you have a clear-cut vision and you at least keep them involved and you make them feel worthwhile, you run a better business and you're still going to have a few disgruntled people. That's the same thing in Louisville basketball for the fan base, in Louisville sports, in any sport. Like, if things aren't going well and you get people that are disgruntled and they complain, the answer is not, well, they're the problem. Like, no, there's so many people that are disgruntled right now. Look, and I'll tell you what you're going to get. And this is the final point I'm going to make, because I told you guys I was going to be on one. This is it.
I like it. Keep going.
This is it. So I'm reading all these chat comments they're talking about.
I'm looking at the chat, man.
It's out of control.
It's
I know.
a shit show
Been,
down here in the chat, I'm telling you.
Well, it's probably a shit show of my preaching. But anyway, I don't even know what I had a good final point, and then I started reading that chat and I got sidetracked.
Way to go, guys. You're the fault. You're at fault here.
All I took from that was Louisville is the Ponderosa of basketball right now. That's what I got. So,
and they were the Jeff Ruby's.
Yeah, I mean, they were the Jeff Ruby's.
I'm just picturing Kyle.
It's the people that are eating their's fault.
I knew when we came on this pod tonight, I knew this for a week that we were going to have a great pod and it was going to be amazing. We were going to get Brad Powers given his expertise and awesomeness, and this show was going to be awesome. What I did not expect was Kyle to give the most awesome analogous example or a metaphor of Louisville from Jeff Ruby's to Ponderosa. And I just got to think you're just sitting there in your dreams, just like, fucking well done. Well done, Sting.
Hey, I remembered now. That's funny. So
what were we gonna
now. Go ahead. Here's what it is. So the fans that are complaining, like people are like, I'm so sick of the complaining. Okay, there are two types of customers you get that are upset. You get the one that complains because they care and they want a better product, and you get the one that just never comes back. And if you look at the Yum Center, what's it look like right now? It's a ghost town.
Ain't coming back.
So at least the ones complaining that are attending and still investing and they still have some skin in the game, at least they still care. Because I'm gonna let you know, not everybody's happy with the product right now. And are there some that are unreasonably upset and that take it too far? Absolutely. But you're not going to control them either. So my whole thing is, at least they care enough to still voice. Because I'll tell you what's coming next is if they just keep getting, pushed to the side and, nobody in athletic, leadership decides they're going to address any of this, and then the staff doesn't address any of this, they're just all going to leave. And that's already happening. And that's any product in any type of line of work. And so stop looking at the fan. Like, the customer is not always wrong. Okay. It's the customer. You need to have the approach that the customer is always right. And so that's my point. That was the last part of that.
And your customer is your customer is a reflection of what they are perceiving, right? So like, and what they're getting out of their investment. So the fact that they're not coming, or the fact that they're disgruntled, whether you feel it's right or not, that is the reality. Okay. Right. And then it's up to you to fix that reality to meet those expectations and meet those demands of your customer. Okay. So the fan is not the problem here. The average fan is not the problem here. I hate the wedge that's being driven between this fan base right now, because honest to God, most of us, I would say upward of 85%. And I'm not even joking that I believe that. I do. All of us really want to be wrong, and we want to enjoy success together. We want to cheer together. We want to be in there having those awesome, great times in the yum that we've known that can happen in there. And it's just that we're all extremely worried because we're seeing history repeat itself in a second year. And I'm sorry, like, I saw a comment today on Twitter about, well, if we get Mgbako, you'd be mad because it's another power forward. But if we don't get him, it's the worst thing to happen. And that, I'm sorry, that drives me nuts. Okay, that drives me nuts, because you're saying, what you're saying there is that we can't applaud success when most everybody that is being critical is just being critical because they see deficiencies in the recruiting process that we also saw last year. It's not to say that we wouldn't applaud. I wanted Mgbako. All of us, I think, wanted Mgbako. The kid's extremely good. He's a good player, and he would have a major impact on this team this year. It's not to say that, though. It's not to say that, though, getting another guard like Davion McKnight couldn't have a greater impact this year than landing Mgbako in a roster that already has 3 to 4 players. When you're trying to play positionless basketball that can that you can kind of move around, whether you want to play small ball or go big. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's just I'm sorry. I'm going to call it out. It's an ignorant take to say that. It's ignorant. And all it's doing is it's people that are pushing a narrative that they're hearing, and they're just continuing to keep pushing that. Okay. You're not doing any favors for any of us. Okay. You need to get off that high horse and stop saying that some of us are just wanting to be right. And we all just want to see, we would rather see Kenny lose and this team lose than us be wrong. I'm sorry. That's bullshit. Like, that's bullshit. Yeah. All of us want to win. We want to win. We know what winning looks like here in this fan base. We know what winning looks like in this program. Okay. We know what it looks like. So give it to us.
And my favorite, like, to go back to the customer example, is like when people are like, well, then you just find another program to follow. Just imagine like that Jeff Ruby's example. You just find another steakhouse. And you just keep telling anybody that gets their nasty, well-done steak and her soggy-ass baked potato, you're clearly the problem here. Go find another steakhouse. And then what happens? You don't have any customers. You go out of business. And the basketball program needs money. They need money. And obviously NIL is a big thing right now, but you still need money to support your actual program. You don't drive away your consumers. I'm sorry. And it's not just a couple of people. That was always the take towards the beginning of last season. It was just a small vocal amount of people. And then all of a sudden you see people, flying out stadium and never coming back. And all of a sudden it's empty in the yum. And it's like, well, it's more than just a few people. And a lot of them, they've already taken an apathy approach. And so the ones of us that are still vocal, reach out to us, man. And I don't think people are as tough to please collectively. There's a few, but I work in a very stressful career myself, and I know other people do too. You've got bad apples everywhere and some of them it seems like you just can't please them at all. But there aren't as many as you think. And there's a lot of people that get frustrated with a product that if you put the time and effort in with those consumers and you improve and hone in on that product and you communicate with them as you're making a process of improvement plan, they get back on board, and then they will thank you, and they will feel even better than they did before when the product was good before it got bad. They'll say, well, you've made a lot of positive changes. The fan base is the same way collectively. There's a few different people, but the whole idea of like these people that preach and they're like, well, this is how you're a real fan. Like, okay, there is no way. Some people are going to complain more than others. Some people are going to be positive no matter what. I am somewhere in the middle. And right now I'm not too thrilled with the basketball situation, but I'm also looking for positives like the Trey White commitment, the high school commits we recently got. And we do have more talent than we had last year at this time. So that is a positive. So, but my point, I guess, is you're not going to get everybody to agree with every little thing you say. And so I don't care how people fan, but I do get irritated with people blaming the fans as if we're going to drive recruits away. Like, okay, they were going to make $100,000 to come here, $200,000. And, but Joe Schmo on Twitter said that they suck. And so now they're not coming. Like, get out of here, man. That's damage control, man. That's damage control. And that's deflection. And the people that make the big dollars are the ones that are responsible for it, not the customers. That's
Kyle,
it. That's it, guys. I'm done with that.
And Kyle, you brought up you compared it to steak. Well, we got to stop being the Popeyes of chicken. We need to be more like the Raising Cane's that we are.
Here we go.
No, listen.
No, not Raising
Cane's. You all echoed a lot of what. Okay, Ross, you're done. You all have echoed a lot of the frustrations that I have. The real fan thing is becoming very, very frustrating to me. For the Twitter and keyboard warriors, who are you to judge anybody else and determine who or who isn't a real fan? I know you don't want to, Kyle. You didn't want to call them out, and I'm not going to name them by names. But we all know the local media that's in the podcasters that are pushing that. It's got to stop. It has to stop. I can only speak for myself. My dad showed me, took me to my first Louisville game at Freedom Hall when I was like 5 years old. I've loved it ever since. I've loved Louisville sports. We'll always love Louisville sports.
Mm-hmm.
I give a shit. That's why I'm mad. That's why I'm frustrated. And it's because I give a shit. And I've spent a lot of my own money, and my family spent a lot of money to go to these games, to buy merch, to
make memories.
To make memories. I have memories with my family and my friends going to these games that I just bought tickets to the Louisville IU game last week. Am I not a real fan? Because I'm not buying. It's got to stop. It has to stop. The narrative that fans are going to drive away commitments, that is the biggest load of horse shit I've ever heard in my life. And every single one of you that echoed that should be ashamed. That is not a thing. What's going to drive away players is our NIL not being up to par, which, I keep hearing Louisville NIL is so great. It's so great. And everyone said that when Kenny got hired, NIL wouldn't be a problem. Why the hell is it a problem now? I'm sorry, but if your NIL department and your collective and stuff is this top notch, it should not have been a problem with Mgbako. It shouldn't.
So I'm looking at the chat, and I'm collectively, besides Tron saying that I have a short-term memory loss earlier and that Kane sucks ass, most people in here are saying, which
Tron,
I don't know about
Tron, you're
Kane,
done.
but I think you're right about that first part. I got in my bag and then like got distracted. It was like squirrel, but came back to the bag. But anyway, the theme in the chat right now is that people just want like, what are we doing? Like, if people would just communicate, like that's what they're saying because they care and they are frustrated. They aren't
Yeah.
going to be all rainbows and unicorns. They don't think Dennis Evans is a guard, and they probably won't. And I know I'm exaggerating, but they don't think everybody's a guard. Is my point. And you don't just put a G next to their name, and that's fine. Agree to disagree, but don't accuse them of not being fans or say we're better off without them. And Doc makes the point. He says it was trending south already, and that narrative threw it off the mountain. I agree because we had just lost a guy that we all wanted, and some people, did they blame the staff? Did they maybe get really frustrated and get really hostile on Twitter? Absolutely, because that's what everybody does. That's human behavior. I'm not excusing it. I'm not condoning it, but you're not going to stop it. So the best thing you can do is ignore it. But Doc's point is when it's trending, like we have this bad news, and then people turn around and they say, this, and we know it's coming from the staff. That's the scary part because we know the people saying it are talking to the staff, and they're saying, the fans are going to lose us some recruits if this keeps up, if they haven't already. And it's like, whoa, like that's what our leadership's saying. That's what they're saying. Like they're the guys at the Jeff Ruby's serving well done steaks to medium rare customers and are blaming the customer.
Listen.
No.
On this podcast, no matter where you stand, if you're more positive or negative, you're always going to be welcome to come in here and share that. Okay. I want to preface that whether you're positive, sunshine pumper, negative, whatever the case may be. I don't care. A negative Nancy, you're always going to be welcome to come voice it on here. My thing is this. At what point are we going to say that the staff is at fault for something? There is an excuse for literally every single thing. And by the way, there's a long laundry list of things. This is why I'm frustrated. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? We completely gloss over it now because we're a whole year afterwards. DJ Wagner, we hired his grandpa, Milt Wagner, former Louisville great. We hired him to come be on the staff. And that was supposed to be like one of the things that was going to get DJ Wagner to come here. He didn't even visit.
Yeah.
Like, and we gloss over it because it's been a year and we don't want to rehash it. But like, that is just, it starts back then. The last year with the portal, everyone said, well, the cloud. I'll give you that the cloud probably may have affected some of the top tier guys like a Tyrese Hunter. I would imagine it could affect that. But there was over 1,800 kids in the portal last year. Think about it, over 1,800.
And you didn't address the issue.
You got one.
Right.
There are kids. There were kids in the portal last year that whatever school they went to, they would have had no chance of going to the tournament to begin with. So let alone if Louisville, maybe Louisville can't make it because they get a postseason ban last year. They weren't going to make it at whatever school they're going to anyways. So it just gets excused and excused and excused. The excuses have to stop. I want this to work. We all want this to work. Mm-hmm. And there are things to celebrate and be positive about. But I can't just ignore and keep ignoring when a lot of the same things just go wrong. I can't sit back and ignore it.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of, if any of us mess up at our job, there's some sort of corrective action plan that gets put into place. You meet with your management, you discuss how you're going to fix that issue, and it's up to you to work on improving that. And going forward, like we've discussed in other pods, there's no transparency, and we don't know what that is. So we just keep getting these leaks. We get these leaks from the staff that get leaked out through local media and then get leaked out into national media as well. And then you strike out, and it's just repeated. It's the same repeated actions over and over, and it doesn't change. It does not change. I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know how many times we can say this. Like, I feel like, and I'll stop with this. you were talking about whether you're a sunshine pumper or a negative Nancy in here. I'll bet you this, if we're winning, all of us, no matter what our perspective is, we will all cheer our asses off and we will all rejoice in U of L basketball being, what we expect it to be. Like those 4 games that we won last year. I know when we beat Clemson at the end of the year last year, I was like, shit, like I was happy. You know what I mean? Like we want to win. Like, and we all have different perspectives and different ways to get there, but it does not like we want the same thing. I'm sorry. Like you may differ on that. You may disagree and feel that I'm less of a fan or you're less of a fan or you're more of a fan. That's fine. Whatever you want to feel, you want to have that opinion. That's fine. But
Ross, why have we lowered our expectations for this program? Like, at what point do we sit back and realize like this is Louisville basketball?
yeah,
Why have we lowered our expectations? I understand that when Kenny took the job, he had some things that he was facing. I get it. Those are over with. And
I did
he
want
could
to
have
say
took other alternative routes to fix that. Why are we lowering our expectations?
I do want to say real quick, I see we're getting a lot more live viewers right now. So a lot of you guys weren't in here at the beginning of this podcast. Brad Powers is a Hit the Books podcaster. He hosts it. He's a sports bettor, very well-known college football bettor. He has
Vegas expert.
He's a Vegas expert. Ross's coin term for him, and he's correct. Feel free when we release this tomorrow on Spotify, on Apple, or come back to YouTube after we're done closing it down. Check out the first half of this episode and check out that interview. It was amazing. Like he pumped motivation through all of us with the positivity about football. So please listen to that. With that being said, I do want to talk about, since we're talking about basketball, we have one scholarship left since Mgbako did not. He's not coming here, obviously. Where do we go? Obviously, there's a kid out of Marshall. Somebody said Jared West 2.0 in the chat earlier. I don't know, man. I think he's got a little more to his game than that. But, I don't think we're going to land some unless, hey, it's not 11:59 yet. So we could still get some surprise names to enter the portal, but I don't think we're going to get some 5-star type of transfer portal guard at this juncture. So I look at a kid like that, averages 20 a game, and he's a decent 3-point shooter, I think 36% or so, and 5 assists, 2 turnovers. So I think he'd be a solid get. And like Doc says, Jared West would be a great add on this current team.
Yeah, he
I
would.
won't say great, but
Shit, I would.
I think a great, but he's definitely good. He would be a positive. He'd be a positive addition.
Jared West would have been great for last year.
Jared West, honestly, that type of player on this team is what I thought Davian McKnight could be on this team.
Yeah.
Honestly, very strong guard, downhill player, has a way of getting shots up, knows how to put himself in positions to win. And, he's not like he's not like the best thing you could have gotten out of the portal, but he would have been very solid. And now here we are. We're sitting here just like we were last year, and we're scrambling.
Well, and I mean, but it's not too late, not yet. Time's ticking, hourglass is starting to run out of sand, but there's still some sand left in there. It's still trickling down, and I don't know. Like I'd like a guy like that even at this point. If you could get a 3-point marksman who doesn't really, like a Ryan McMahon type of guard to come off the bench and just drain threes. That's better than like just sitting on an empty scholarship. That's not what we all wanted. We all wanted McKnight or Minifield or somebody of that caliber, but we're not going to get that probably. So
it's a shame.
A guy who can just handle the ball, who can make some intelligent decisions, who brings some experience and poise to this roster and can be trusted with the ball in his hands. And I see a lot of talent on the roster. I see a lot of guys who can, take 2-3 step dribbles, who can slash, who can cut, and who are athletic and long. I'm not seeing a lot of decision-making and primary ball handlers on the roster, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of shooting either. So I don't know, either get some marksman sharpshooter or a guy like a Jared West who has some poise and can handle the basketball, who may not be a star, but is solid, and let's roll, man. And if you can
I will take
at this juncture, I think
I
the
will take
roster next year has potential.
Yeah. I will take Turner Butchery. Put him on this team this year. Seriously, from EKU. Kid can shoot it. He can handle the ball. He doesn't turn it over. He's smart, has great basketball IQ, comes from a great basketball family. His dad was a coach. Like, put a dude like that on this team. Like, that. I'm sorry. Like, you can't be putting all this weight and all this pressure on Sky Clark. He played 13 games last year. 13.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I'm sorry. It's crazy.
So in terms of the portal action, there's been a few names that have gone in recently. Just today, we had Arthur Kaluma, the forward from Creighton. He went in today. Julian Phillips, who was if you remember back to when Kenny got hired, a lot of the Twitter experts were saying that he was going to be one of the first few to pop for Kenny. He went in the portal today, and Isaiah Miranda, another name that we are close with.
Yeah, we know that name.
One that kind of we definitely know him. One that intrigues me a lot, though. And he's listed as a small forward, but I'll be honest, I've watched him quite a bit with Auburn. Alan Flanagan. I kind of like Alan Flanagan a little bit. I think he's more of a combo guard than he is forward. He definitely has a little more ball handling skills. Maybe we can reach out there. I have heard absolutely nothing about how Flanagan's recruitment's going since he jumped in. But it's an option available. Of course, we do have the Marshall kid that you're talking about. But there's still going to be some more additions to the portal. Just not it's going to slow down a little bit. But with the combine going on, and I think there's a deadline to withdraw. There'll be a few more additions. But the clock's ticking. Ticking. There's not a lot of time, and we got such an early head start. Our season ended first week of March, and this is all we have to show for it.
I feel like it's kind of a hot take because I mentioned it on Twitter on somebody's account, and a bunch of people had different opinions. But like the Marshall kid, for example, Taylor, if we could land him, and obviously we're going to miss on Mgbako, I would actually prefer, because of the need of this team, not saying he's an overall, like we talked about a little earlier, but I would prefer that. So you land a guy like that, I don't think we're going to land him unless we start hearing, who knows though. We landed Danilo and we didn't even know who he was. And he just, boom, Danilo.
I still don't know.
So you never know. But we're not hearing a whole lot other than we initially reached out to him. He is from Kentucky though. But a kid like that or of that caliber, I don't care if we miss on Mgbako. If we land that, because we have small forwards and power forwards on the roster. We do not have guards except for Sky Clark. We have a transition guard. Like guys, we have to make hybrid guards, and that's fine if you have guards to supplement that off of. But we're asking a lot out of some of these guys on this roster. As I'm looking at the way the roster is constructed and the youth, we're asking guys to do some pretty astronomical things. And I feel like with L. Ellis, even last year, he did a pretty solid job considering what he was really tasked to do.
Yeah.
And I know his defense wasn't great and could have been better, but the whole team's could have. And that's another.
He was also playing 38 minutes a game. It's hard to play great defense play after play when you're playing.
I was going to make is like, you got to look at what he was doing. And he had somebody had to score for us. So he obviously had to take some time since he's playing the whole game. He had to take a rest somewhere. And unfortunately, that's what you get into. And then, of course, we saw how bad the defense in general was last year because a lot of guys couldn't stay in front of their men because they were playing out of position, playing guys that were smaller, quicker, faster, and better with the ball and those kind of movements than the guys that were defending them. And it burned us a lot. So I don't know. I'm hoping, I guess my point is, I hope that we can fill that with a guard. And if we can get even a solid contributor with a lot of experience who can shoot the rock, I don't care that we missed on Mgbako. Don't care.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was a player like McNeil, the West Virginia transfer from last year. We like a player like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we get a player like that, just somebody like that. to finish out the roster, I'd be happy. Like, swear, I promise. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, give me a player like that. I'm ready to go this year. Like, I just think that's the one missing thing that we need on this roster. It really is. Like, we need a player like that. And, it's going to be great to see guys that can take their defender off the dribble and get in the lane, but you're not going to score it in the lane every single time. You're going to need to kick to some shooters. We don't have any. Like, we don't have any shooters. Like, Jalen Withers was one of our best 3-point shooters last year, right? He's gone. He had his deficiencies for sure. Like, but I just don't see where we're I don't see where we're going.
So I know Ty did bring up the Trey White highlights. We wanted to kind of end it on a positive note with basketball. I am happy about Trey White being added to the roster. Now, I still feel like he doesn't really. Let me get the overlays done right here. There we go.
There we go.
But we want to talk about the positives, the negatives. I know I think U of L Sporting News is a Twitter handle that's getting a lot of flack right now because he put his honest opinion after breaking down 4 games worth of film and said that he didn't think he was a guard, wasn't a great shooter, sometimes took breaks on defense, but did have nice athleticism and ability to finish at the rim. And he's getting a lot of flack on Twitter, of course, because he wasn't 100%, and they were just saying he didn't know what he was talking about. They said he picked the 4 worst games, which I saw somebody say I actually picked 4
of his better games. Yeah, it was one of Trey's 4 better games.
4 of his better games, and somebody on there wrote, "You picked his worst 4 games." Like, no. And people like that, it just goes to show you there's some people that are
have an agenda.
You can't make any point of like questioning anything or skepticism. But we're watching it right now. I mean, the kid's got a lot of bounce for sure.
Yeah,
he's got length. He can cut to the basket. He can finish close to the rim. He's got some explosiveness to his game, I believe. And his length on defense, if he puts in the effort, it could be a positive for us. Yeah. I don't know. He's not a bad ad at all. And I think he's going to be an instant impact player on this current team.
I swear, I think he's the best add to this roster out of everybody we've added, even better than Sky Clark. I personally believe that. Like, I think he's the most complete player that has the availability of what's open. He has the best chance of fulfilling the niche that we need him to do for this team this year. Like, he has the greatest opportunity. And I think he's got the most tools to be able to fill that opportunity this year. So, like, I think he's a good player. I saw some people compare him to, like, Sam Williamson. He's got a really good mid-range game. I agree with that. I think that Oregon court is so ugly. I don't know how you play on that thing. Looks like somebody's vascular system.
Looks like it's buffering. I thought the video was buffering. I'm not kidding. Anyway, I hope he's a little better. Like, Sam was a role model type of player. Wasn't ever a problem from what everybody said, but didn't give us a whole lot. I do hope he's better than that. But I saw like on his weaknesses, for example, is that him taking a jump where he dribbles into his shot. Like, he needs to be set up for a shot, it looks like, based on weaknesses. And so then there goes your question: who's going to set this guy up? Who is, besides Sky Clark, who are our guys who can orchestrate the offense for others? And I mean, we hope that maybe Kenny Payne and the staff have figured that out after last year, but we only have last year to go off of, and that was a big problem. And while there's more talent on the roster, I feel like it's a similarly constructed roster. So, it seems like Trey White needs people to set him up, and then he can take advantage of it, as opposed to creating his own shot off the dribble.
Well, one thing that I've noticed, I think, and this is kind of what my critique of RJ Luis was. I think Trey can create his own shot. It's whether he can convert it. And efficiency wise, he was, as a freshman, let's keep this in mind, as a freshman, efficiency wise, he was not that good at converting off the dribble. We'll go back here. By the way, This video got it from College Basketball Scouting. We used them for the RJ Luis a few weeks ago. Check him out. He's doing really good breakdowns. Yeah, bottom 20 percentile in the country shooting off the dribble. You could see by the footage that he can create a shot. It's whether he can convert. He finishes really strong at the rim, though. That's something that's a positive. He doesn't look like a great athlete, but a good enough athlete where he can get up. He can rebound really well, I think. See, this is where I'm saying when people say that he's a guard, Trey White is not a guard, guys. He's a forward, and I think he's going to be a really good forward, actually. Probably better than some of the pieces we already have here. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for Trey. Of course, everybody can improve. And he was just a freshman last year, but he can, if he can work on the converting of off dribble shooting, tighten up his handles a little bit. I think he's got some potential here.
Well, and I was going to say too, like hitting on that, the thing that I saw a lot of as far and something that could really help that efficiency rating is, and I think this comes with him being younger. Okay, I think as he gets older and gets more experience and he gets stronger, I think he'll realize he settled for a lot of shots when he didn't need to. He already had the blow by there. And then he pulls up, and I realize that that's somewhat a product of today's game. Guys want to shoot, but if you can get an easy 2 points and a higher percentage shot at the rim, you should do that. And I think that he has the ability to finish, and he has the body, and he has the bounce to be able to do that and finish above the rim more times than he gave himself a chance to or gave himself credit for. In his 1 year at USC. I think he's a very good player. I'm very excited about him. I think with some extra experience and some coaching, like he's going to see that. I'm hopeful that we're going to see more times this year. He's not going to stop and just pull up and dribble. What he needs to do is do it like a little hezzy, where he's going to pull up and keep going to the rim and finish strong and go take on contact and then get to the line. That's going to help him. That's going to help the team. It's just everything's better. Like that would be the one thing I'm looking at him to improve upon this year. And I think that would help his efficiency numbers tremendously. So
Ross, maybe this is just me. He reminds me a lot of Caleb Glenn. I think him and Caleb Glenn are almost like identical players. Maybe that's just me. But I feel like they're going to be, when you have Trey and then Caleb, it's going to be pretty much identical. I think they could do a lot of the same things, and a lot of the same things really well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see a lot of Trey, not Trey, Caleb's when he transferred to La Lumiere last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't get to see a lot of anything really on him, but I know when he was at Mayo, I mean, big, strong, physical player, definitely had a college-ready body. Even by a junior in high school, he had that.
Yeah.
So I think Trey maybe has a little bit more guard skills than Caleb does, just to be completely honest. But it could also be because he's ahead of the curve and he's older too. So. It's just hard to say. I definitely see what you're saying though, and what you see in that. I get the comparison for sure.
Yeah. No, my wife has not texted me to wrap it up yet. I haven't heard the baby crying too much, so I'm hopeful that she got her to bed. They put Ross is just getting started. That's funny. But I did want to kind of get to our final part. We touched on the Denny Crum stuff earlier in the episode. We are gonna close it down. We've had a very productive episode. Like I said, if you're just now joining late, please watch the first half of this pod. Actually, watch the whole thing. Obviously, if you wherever you started, watch up to that point or listen. If it's on, it'll be on Spotify, Apple, Google tomorrow. But that Brad Powers interview, I mean, that guy knows his shit, and he speaks very highly of Jeff Brohm of Louisville. I was pumped hearing it. Ross looked like a kid in a candy store, smiling ear to ear. I mean,
I look like a kid in a Ponderosa, man.
No. Well, actually, yeah, kids do. real quick sidebar. I smoked those chicken wings I shared in the Discord, and they were amazing. And of course, my stepson, he said, these are the second best wings I've ever had. And I was like, well, what's the first? And he said, Ponderosa. And I'm like, hey, no, I was like, you're not, move out of the house. He's 9. I was like, get out, get a job, hippie. Come on, man. Ponderosa, but that's how kids are. You know how their palates are.
Ooh, man.
I decided to spin that and take that as a compliment because I used to like easy cheese and spray it in my mouth like bear when I was a kid, all kind of nasty stuff. But anyway, I'm not gonna go too much.
Kyle,
on
you're
it. That
the
just
you're
made
the
me think of
Louisville
that.
Ponderosa of smoking chicken wings.
No, not good.
No,
I'm
he's
not
the
that
second.
good.
He's the second best. He's the second best.
behind
Second
them.
best.
I mean, I was kind of like he made it sound like they were really good. And he's like, these are really good. And he's a very picky eater. But then he said that, and it's like, oh man, come on, man. Anyway, all that being said, we did want to wrap up tonight. Just we did touch on Denny Crum earlier. Obviously, his passing yesterday hit the entire Louisville community, hit the entire college basketball community, and you know, he's gonna be missed. And we knew he was in bad health off and on for a while, so it's not that it was necessarily unexpected, but you just can't ever prepare for those things, man. And we lost a legend yesterday, at least in the physical. Now, I'd like to believe his spirit will carry on forever as long as Louisville basketball is a thing. The hand of Denny Crum will always be there, and it'll be more than just a signature on the basketball court. It'll be, it'll be felt there's a spirit of Louisville forever. I feel like the tradition that he helped instill. And I mean, I know he wasn't the first. You had like the Peck Hickman, the John Dromos, but Denny Crum was that guy. And I mean, his love for Louisville, it's just hard to even put into words because I'll give you an example. Like, let's pretend Nolan Smith was our head coach right now, and he won a championship with Duke, and he was an assistant at Duke. And then all of a sudden, Coach K was still at Duke, crushing it. Coach K leaves this year, and no one's won a title or two for us. And Duke reaches out, and he tells them, no, I'm staying at Louisville. And that's what Denny Crum did. And, I mean, he could have taken over for John Wooden. He was an assistant under John Wooden. He played for UCLA. And UCLA wanted him. They wanted Denny. Yep. They did not want anybody else. They wanted Denny Crum. And obviously he was crushing it at Louisville. Who really would have thought? Now, this is in the 80s. This is back in newspaper when you had to wait for the newspaper to come out the next day to get breaking news. And I know somebody said Nolan Smith, a title here. But my point is hypothetically, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, like, if he was crushing it here as a head coach, because I was thinking of the first guy that was like an assistant that won a championship, and Nolan Smith comes to mind. He led them to a championship, and he was assistant. But as far as Denny goes, I just can't imagine being around when that UCLA job came open. I don't remember if it was the 70s or the 80s. It was obviously before my time.
Late 70s, I think.
Late 70s. So he was already starting to crush it. He hadn't won a championship yet if it was late 70s, but he had made multiple Final Fours. And, I mean, you could see what he was going to do. I just can't imagine. I mean, they were probably waiting on the paper to come out every day to see what's Denny Crum going to do. And I mean, I'm sure this entire community was just elated when he decided to stay. And nobody really does that. I mean, nobody does that anymore. Like, you never see coaches that their alma mater and then they also coach there as an assistant. And then it was freaking UCLA after what some say is the best coach ever. He could have walked in there and just kept winning titles. And he stuck it out, won 2 titles with us, create a legacy, create his own legacy, walked his own path. And we're all the beneficiaries of it, even up to this point. So, yeah, he's going to be sorely missed. Obviously, he did a lot of amazing things for the community. There were so many great stories today about Denny Crum. And I heard so many people that had more personal relationships with him or got to meet the guy. Just all kind of amazing things. So, rest in peace to Louisville's version of Cool Hand Luke, man. He's going to be missed. Ross, you got anything, or Ty?
Yeah. I'll just say that, he was the original Denzel, man. he was the Denzel. He was the, like you said, Cool Hand Luke. He was our guy, and he was the guy that put. He turns down that UCLA job, and then very, very shortly afterwards, U of L gets to reap the benefits and wins their first national championship in '80. That's how important that was that he stayed. And he heightened U of L basketball to a level it had never been before and one of the things that he was very public about, and he went on record for saying, was that it was this town, it was the people, it was the fans that wanted him to stay. And I am a firm believer that this town still has all that endearment that he saw as special 40 plus years ago, to stay. I still believe that. I still believe that our town is great. I believe in this community, and he was a big part of that, and he fully baptized himself in that community, and it made himself a part of it. He immersed himself in it, and we, like you said, we're all richer for it. And all I can say is that, man, Denny, I hope you are in paradise every day, that you are reeling in that big fish, man, because you deserve it. You changed a lot of people's lives for the better. You made tremendous memories for an entire community, and you will never be forgotten. Like I said earlier, and we all know from the Sandlot, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. And he's a legend, and it's not just a legend in U of L sense. That guy he was a legend in college basketball in general.
Ross, that's kind of tough to follow, to be honest with you. So, like I said earlier, guys, I'm kind of part of the younger generation. I didn't get to watch many, if any, Denny Crum games. My start of my fandom was really with Rick Pitino as coach. But I have to sit here and realize that, there's no basketball today, and I don't have these same memories if it's not because of Denny Crum and the job that he did here. So for me, I'm going to be thinking more about his family and the lives that he touched in the community.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet earlier from Coach Mack showing his appreciation and love for Denny. Photo of those two on the sideline drawing up a play. And I know that, Coach Payne, obviously it's got to be a very tough day and tough week for Coach Payne. So I'll be thinking about Kenny and Denny's family, and just a tough news for the whole community, for the whole city. It's never easy. It's never easy. So I'll be thinking about Kenny and the family. So rest in peace, Denny.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody that's been listening. Again, check out the beginning of this. Check out. Thanks again for Brad Powers coming on the show tonight. Thanks, Ross, for reaching out to him and getting our first guest on here. We couldn't have, like you said earlier, we could not have asked for a better first guest. Got us ready for football. Basketball, obviously a little bit somber with the Denny news that we just discussed, and then we'll see what we do with that last scholarship. But with that being said, guys, if you're new to the channel, feel free to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications for our next episode. But we do try to air every Wednesday at 9, and we appreciate you guys being with us. The chat was lively tonight. They gave me a lot of crap. I loved it, and I ignore some of the comments because I laugh in my head, but can't read those out loud. But we appreciate you guys being here, and we'll keep trucking on, and we look forward to seeing you guys. So with that, I'll end it with seeing you guys in the future, I should say. So with that being said, I'm going to end it with a go Cards.
Go Cards, go Kroger.
Go Cards.